These were some of the first poems that I ever wrote. I really found out that I tell them, y'all, it's in me, not on me. That was in my African American psychology textbook. Very powerful. If you are a person who is working on their self-esteem and their self-autonomy, I do want to make 2 announcements. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. We're going to talk about poetry today. I started writing poetry when I was 9 years old, as well as journaling. I always felt like journaling was my way of maintaining a relationship with myself. And I mean, who knows you better than you, right? So being able to write and just kind of being able to express myself has always been something that I think was led to me by God. I actually still have all of my notebooks and all my journals that I wrote in when I was 9, 10, 12, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. Yes, y'all, I do. My poetry book, it's all ripped up, y'all, but you know, I was 9. It says beauty. This quote here says, I want to push myself to the limit and always try to be the best. I'm always trying to outdo my last performance. I was in the 4th grade at Marvin Elementary School. I made this. I always love collages. So here is the date. All the pages are ripped, but these were some of the first poems that I ever wrote. I used to write songs and poems. This I wrote March 17th, 2011, y'all. I don't know if y'all can see this. Called Be Myself. Let me see what I was talking about. I can't deny, wishing on these stars. My mind gets so confused. OMG. It's time to be heard. No more hiding behind these trees. I gotta be loud. I gotta be me. Y'all was 11. So I always say this when people ask me questions about poetry. Oh my gosh, when did you start doing this? How did you get so confident in this and this and that? I tell them, y'all, it's in me, not on me. I recited my poetry for the first time in 2019, and I was pushed and compelled to do that by a culture and wellness advocate, public speaker, brilliant man by the name of Demetrius. I really found out that I was a poet probably the first show I did with G.A.N.G Poetry, which stands for Gaining Attention Nonstop Globally. They are a poetry collective based in Bridgeport, Connecticut. They host amazing shows where people could come and showcase their talents. I submitted and I did a show at the Bijou Theater.
Hey, baby.
Hey, mama.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, girl.
All right, here we go. Some may ask.
The response that I got from the audience was very it was much deeper than just applause. It was like they felt me and they understood me, and it was like I touched a place within them, or I touched a version of themselves that needed to hear my words. And so that was back in 2021. Poetry and spoken word really just is an outlet, and it's a form of art that tells the story of those who haven't found their voice yet. And so I think when people hear a person go on stage and literally spill their guts and literally share these stories that come from the depths of their being, it definitely has a healing effect to it. I think that poetry, for me, helps me to consider others when I think about the experiences that have shaped me, good and bad. And ultimately, poetry has been kind of like a mirror for me, because I have to really think about what I'm saying and why am I saying it. Am I saying it because it sounds good? Am I saying it because I just want to create something for an event that I might have coming up? And I realized that if I'm not in a place of understanding within myself, if I'm not introspective and I'm not really thinking about what it is that I'm reiterating through my poetry, how can I ever deliver it to an audience and, expect them to relate and feel me? And ultimately, poetry is therapy, and I think that all forms of art is therapy. I think that being able to release and free yourself through art is therapy. I'm a huge advocate in following that spirit within you that is guiding you towards things that make you uncomfortable. I think that, reciting poetry for me was kind of but then it turned into I think this is part of my purpose. And I began to recite poetry while I was in undergrad. As I mentioned in my intro, I graduated with my undergraduate degree in psychology from the University of Connecticut. Go Huskies. And I realized, one of the main reasons why I wanted to dive into psychology and study it is because the mind and the body work together. At that point, I began to meditate and I began to become more consistent in prayer. And so I realized that there's also this spiritual aspect to the functioning of the mind as well. My mother is Jamaican. She's born in Montego Bay, Jamaica. And my grandfather on her side is a Rastafarian. And my father is American, but my grandparents on his side are Southern and they are Christian. So I've always had this sense of faith in my spirit since a child. And so, as I developed, I began to do more reading and I began to just kind of become more open to unlearning. Poetry really allowed me to unlock doors constantly. And it was a great way for me to reflect and ultimately get closer with God and with my higher self. And I also write a lot of my poems about love and passion and regular life situations and pieces that I know people can relate to. But really, the broad, the palette of my poetry really comes from that spiritual space. So meditation, prayer, and then ultimately taking a year-long break off of social media, I'll talk about that in another video, allowed me to dive deeper into my art and into my creativity. And I always knew that that's something that I wanted to push forward in anything that I'm doing. I've made plenty of mistakes. I've done things I'm not proud of. I've said things I'm not proud of. But I was able to forgive myself and love myself and share those processes that allow me to come to quite a gracious understanding through poetry. And through that, I'm able to tell people, it's okay. You're all right. Your mistakes, your past, what happened 5 minutes ago, your stress, your outbursts, they don't define you. Accountability and responsibility is something that I found in the depths of my poetry. Oh yeah, no. Oh, here we go. Okay. Accountability and responsibility is something that I feel like the spoken word allows for all of us to do. And the type of dialogue that you use is extremely effective in your life. And so as I write, I'm able to say, okay, living isn't enough. I must exercise this presence I feel inside of me. I arise unconsciously, then later become conscious of she. This is dialogue that I share with myself between the darker and lower parts of my being and the more mindful, conscious, and higher parts of my being. I'm able to share dialogue with myself. And that is from my poem, Beneath My Flesh, which you can find on my written works page on Instagram, which is in the description. But yeah, you guys, poetry really grew on me. But I realized, this is something I just love to do. You could turn anything into a poem, good or bad. So ultimately, you guys, through my work, through my poetry, and through a new movement that I just created called We've Got Something to Say, I want to represent the voices of the people that I coexist with. And honestly, guys, there are many worlds. The worlds that we are living in right now only cater to us and what we know. There's somebody out there who don't even know how to stomach their emotions. Poetry unlocks the depths of a person. Poetry allows for brevity to become recognized. One piece of advice my father gave me was, you always want to put your energy into things and people that give you life back. When I recite poetry and I walk off stage and I see those in the audience ask me for hugs, you know what I mean? They want to take the time to ask for my name and shake my hand. Man, that means a lot to me, because it's like I'm only able to do what I'm able to do through God. When I fall back into bad habits, I know that there is a beauty and there's a purpose and there's a depth in me that reminds me as to why I need to get it together. And poetry helps me to reflect. It helps move the better part of me. And y'all, one of the major sources of inspiration for my poetry is education and knowledge of self. And that kind of knowledge heightens an awareness in me when I allow myself to detach, when I'm not on Instagram, when I'm just me and I'm in a space that feels safe. That's when I write the best poetry. So I forget when I read this book. It had to be about 3 years ago, but it's real old. The title ripped and everything. Title ripped and everything, but this is the Ancient Egyptian Path to Enlightenment. It is by 𝘋𝙧𝙤𝙤𝙤. Very powerful book. That's where I got my name, Supreme Divinity. I'm out of breath. Whew. Lord. But y'all, this book is very, very powerful. If you are a person who lives in a chaotic home or environment, if you are a person who is working on their self-esteem and their self-autonomy, is trying your best to cope with your current life situations, or if you are a person who just needs deeper understanding in regards to information, things that you think you know, this is the book, y'all. A few words from the book that I highlighted that resonated with me. While trying to promote the prosperous situations, there must be expectation of adversity as well. This wisdom leads to the understanding that the world and worldly situations cannot be relied upon as a source of happiness. There will always arise some situation which will bring any form of worldly prosperity to an end. Therefore, a wise person does not become attached to worldly objects, people, or situations, even while being involved with them during the normal course of a lifetime. There's an African proverb: if you know the beginning well enough, the end won't trouble you. That was in my African American psychology textbook. Very powerful. So tap into your heart, tap into your gifts. Even if one person is receiving you and is supporting you and feeling you, that is a very huge accomplishment. And continue to water that. There is purpose that lies in the depths of this flesh. And I just so happen to realize that at an early time in my life. But we all are on this journey. We all are on this walk of life. So continue to have faith in yourself. And then, you guys, before I end this video, I do want to make 2 announcements. I am a contributing author in this book titled Surviving During a Pandemic. I was a part of this project when I was in undergrad, and I have some poems featured in this. This has students, women, and young men from all over the world: Turkey, New York, Connecticut, where I'm from, China. You can see here, but I am a contributing author. You can see there. This book is also on Amazon, so go check it out. And this beautiful young lady that I met through a poetry event, a show that we were a part of, Gang Poetry was the show. Her name is Aianna Thomas. She's also very God-driven, very talented, very beautiful inside and out. My poetry is also featured in her published book, Mixed Emotions, so go check that out. I will drop her Instagram in the description. Let me move my curtain. Okay. Got too much light, y'all? Is that too much light? Okay. I'm gonna end this video off, you guys, with the poem that I wrote titled Normal is an Illusion. So let's do it. Sweet, sweet child. When was the last time you looked into your own eyes? Did you know that you are no less than the stars, the trees, the sun, and the moon? You belong here. Life only begins when you resonate with the moment in complete awareness of your existence. It is our resistance of self that kills us before we even realize we're alive. You are right on time. There is energy floating on sacred land that bears more than just fruit, and still we are blinded by things that can be gone whenever our Creator wants it to. So to tell you the truth, be sweet, sweet child, remain still in the body that was carefully crafted for you and shine. I mean, so bright that you mimic the sun, radiating on all that comes into your presence. That kind of authenticity that never goes out of style, and when it's all said and done, you'll realize normal is just an illusion. You guys can find that poem on @whensupremespeaks on my Instagram. If you guys watched this whole video, I want to give you guys a huge thank you for tuning back in and rocking with me, and drop any feedback or any comments down below. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts, what you learned, what you want to know more about. Don't be shy. So yeah, y'all, that basically sums up this video. So again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.